Imagine this. You're standing right at a crossroads, a really pivotal moment in history. The air around you is just uh, buzzing with tension. You can feel it. And this nation's democratic fabric,
Hmm.
it's stretched so tight, it feels like it could just snap.
Hmm.
We're going back exactly 50 years. It's the eve of June 25th, 1975, in India.
Hmm.
Not just another date, you know. It felt like standing on a precipice.
Yeah, a precipice is a good word for it. That sense of uncertainty, it was almost tangible, wasn't it? The future of the world's biggest democracy just hanging there.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why today we're doing a deep dive into that extraordinary, really fraught moment. We want to explore the crucial events, the underlying tensions that built up right before India declared the emergency.
Right, that 21-month period where things changed dramatically, civil liberties curtailed, dissent suppressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all kind of encapsulated in what people were calling the last caution, a sort of powerful warning about the huge political, economic, and frankly, moral problems the country was facing.
It's fascinating and a bit chilling looking back how all these different pressures, legal, economic, political, just seem to converge. A perfect storm, really.
That's it. Not just one thing, but everything hitting at once.
Yeah, you had these unprecedented court rulings, a really struggling economy hitting ordinary people hard, and political dissent just boiling over.
So our goal for you today is to unpack all those layers. We want to show how these things weren't just happening side by side, they were feeding off each other. You'll get a real sense of the conditions that set the stage for, well, one of India's most debated chapters.
And the impact on real people, the choices leaders faced when democracy itself felt like it was on trial. We'll be drawing a lot from the observations of a key journalist from that time, Kuldeep Nair. His writings really captured the mood.
Okay, let's dive in then. June 1975. India's facing this huge constitutional crisis. Picture New Delhi, the capital is just humming with unease. You can feel a storm brewing.
Definitely. And the legal system just dropped a bombshell. June 12th, 1975, the Allahabad High Court delivers this verdict that just echoes across the country.
Not just some minor ruling, right?
No, no, this was huge. It found the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, guilty of electoral malpractices back in the 1971 election. Things like misusing government resources for her campaign, using an official for election work, stuff against the rules.
And the penalty, not just a fine or something.
Far from it. The consequence was staggering. Disqualified from holding public office for 6 years.
Wow, 6 years. The sitting prime minister basically told she's out because of fraud.
Exactly. The nation was stunned. Supporters screamed political bias. The opposition felt vindicated. It was immediate and incredibly polarizing.
So obviously that raises massive questions about her right to even govern. What happened next?
An appeal.
Immediately,
Yeah.
an urgent appeal to the Supreme Court. And then just under 2 weeks later, June 24th, the Supreme Court gives its initial response. Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer grants a conditional stay. Conditional. Okay, that sounds important. What did conditional mean here?
It meant technically she could stay on as prime minister, but it was a massive but she was barred from voting in parliament.
So she could lead the government but couldn't vote on laws.
Precisely. Until her main appeal was fully heard, which wasn't expected until maybe late August. It's like, you can sit in the driver's seat, but you can't actually press the pedals or turn the wheel until we say so.
The optics must have been terrible.
Unprecedented, really. The head of government found guilty of fraud, still in power, but legally handicapped. It created this huge moral dilemma. Is it right for the captain to stay on board when they're legally stopped from steering?
Yeah.
That decision, even if meant to allow due process, just poured fuel on the fire. Tension, scrutiny, public trust eroding. It really amplified the feeling that maybe the rules were different for those at the very top.
And this legal drama wasn't happening in a vacuum, was it? This is where it gets really complex, because ordinary people were already suffering.
Oh, absolutely. The economic backdrop was grim. Forget the legal stuff for a second. Just think about daily survival. It was incredibly tough for millions.
How bad was it?
Well, look at the currency. The Indian rupee had lost a third of its value, 34% devaluation over the previous 2 years.
34%. Just gone.
Gone. Think what that means. If you had 100 rupees saved, suddenly it only bought what 66 rupees used to buy.
So if you're a daily wage earner trying to feed your family.
Devastating. Imagine trying to stretch that shrinking income. It wasn't just numbers. It was families struggling for food, medicine, basic necessities, just squeezed.
And that devaluation, plus inflation, global oil shocks, it pushed more people into poverty.
Massively. The poverty line, already high, expanded. It came to cover half the population, 50%. Just a year before, it was maybe 40%.
Half the country. It's hard to even grasp that scale, like getting a notice saying, "Welcome to the struggle."
It really felt like that for so many. A rapidly deepening crisis, just shattering hope.
Wasn't there talk of land reforms?
Yeah.
Promises made?
Big promises, yes. Redistributing land, empowering farmers. A cornerstone of their platform, really.
But did it happen?
For most farmers, most landless laborers, those promises were, well, you used the phrase earlier, like a chocolate teapot.
Huh. Right. Looks good, but completely useless under pressure.
Exactly. Melted away, bureaucracy, corruption, politics getting in the way. People were promised a meal and got an empty plate. Again and again.
So that feeling of betrayal must have been growing.
Definitely. A huge gap between the government's words and people's reality. And that simmering discontent was ready to boil over.
Okay, so let's pull these threads together. You've got the PM under this legal cloud, the Supreme Court's weird half-in, half-out ruling, and an economy making life unbearable for half the country.
It's a powder keg, no other way to describe it.
And that central question just gets louder. Can a leader found guilty of fraud actually govern legitimately?
It's like having a referee caught cheating but insisting on finishing the game. The whole process feels tainted, right? The fairness, the integrity. It's all questioned.
And the opposition wasn't just sitting back.
Not at all. They were energized. Jayaprakash Narayan, JP, a really respected figure, Gandhian socialist, he launched his total revolution movement.
Calling for her resignation.
Demanding it. And people responded. Huge protests erupted across India, cities, towns, mass demonstrations, calls for civil disobedience. The country was fiercely divided.
So some saw the court ruling as a political attack. Others insisted the law applies to everyone.
That's the split. Intense arguments, slogans, a real ideological battle playing out in the streets.
And amidst all this chaos, this article appears, The Last Caution.
Yes, by Kuldip Nair, highly respected journalist. And his piece wasn't just analysis, it felt like a warning, a stark one.
What was he warning about?
He seemed to be saying, look, if the Prime Minister ignores the court's conditions, ignores this massive public dissent, ignores the calls to step down, the government might feel forced to take extreme measures, authoritarian measures.
To maintain order, they might clamp down hard.
That seemed to be the fear. He implicitly warned about things like press censorship, silencing critics, mass arrests of opponents, activists, a severe clampdown on basic civil liberties.
Wow. He was basically outlining the playbook for authoritarianism.
It felt like it. He wasn't just theorizing, he was suggesting that digging in wouldn't preserve stability. It could actually ignite violence, pushing the opposition and the public onto the streets, making things even more unstable.
A lit powder keg, and he's saying, don't throw another match on it.
Precisely. It captured the very real fear of democratic backsliding that was palpable then, the idea that fundamental rights could just be suspended.
So the choice facing Indira Gandhi was incredibly stark.
Monumental. On one hand, she could step down. Temporarily, maybe. Calm things down, show respect for the courts, the Constitution, even if it hurt politically.
Like the captain stepping aside briefly to save the ship.
You could see it that way. A potentially powerful gesture. But, and this is key, she wasn't known for backing down.
No, she had a reputation for being incredibly resilient, determined, like a fighter.
Exactly. She fought tooth and nail, faced challenges head-on. Retreat wasn't really in her vocabulary, politically speaking.
So in that context, Nair's last caution.
It feels less like journalism and more like a desperate plea, a final, urgent warning, almost begging her not to take the path he feared would lead to, well, darkness for India's democracy.
What a moment. We've traced this incredible convergence, haven't we? The legal rulings, the economic pain, the political pressure cooker, all coming together in June 1975.
Yeah, that conditional stay from the court, layered onto the struggling economy, the divided public, it really did push the nation right to the edge.
And looking back, that last caution feels eerily prophetic, doesn't it?
Tragically so. It foreshadowed the grim realities that did come with the emergency. The censorship, the arrests, the silencing of dissent. It's a stark reminder of how quickly democratic norms can erode under pressure, especially when political survival takes precedence.
So reflecting on this exactly 50 years later, it leaves us with a really profound question, I think. For any time, any nation, in moments of deep crisis, legal challenges, intense division, what really shows a leader's commitment to the people, to the foundations of democracy itself, When the stakes are that high, what does true leadership actually demand?
Maybe for you, listening. What would you consider the ultimate last caution? The warning sign that, if ignored, could change a nation's course forever.